all the albatross decided to fledge and go fly for the first time, and a windstorm came through, and they all just were so excited and started flapping and trying to catch wind and just, you know, exercising essentially, getting those chest muscles really strong so that they could take flight for the first time. And then eventually, when they're ready, they make their way out to the dunes, hopping, jumping, walking. And then they take a look at the ocean for the first time and, you know, contemplate their life at sea. That's how I anthropomorphize this picture. And then when they're ready, they take flight for the first time. So it's really a profound experience to see these birds. I'll go back to this one just for a minute. They spend 3 to 4 years at sea foraging, and then when they feel the time is right, they go back to the place where they were raised. So we're waiting for them to come back to James Campbell. So it's pretty exciting. Really high success rates in getting them fledging, and now we're just waiting for them to return. And we're doing this with 4 other species in this wildlife refuge specifically. So we have Laysan albatross, the black-footed albatross, Bonin's petrels, and Tristram storm petrels. All of these birds have inundated nests on the coastline of the Northwest Hawaiian Islands. And so the chicks that are taken have been identified as being in these really high-risk areas. So if they weren't taken for translocation, they would have been lost to inundation and heat loss and stress. So this is our way of really saving them now and creating colonies for the future. And the cool thing is that Laysan albatross are now breeding at that site, and Bonin's petrels were seen for the first time this year visiting the site. And I don't think they've been there for over 100 years, so it's really exciting that we're starting to be able to measure the success of these projects. So the last project I'll mention is in Kauai. I said I'd come back around to these highly endangered species, the Hawaiian petrel and the Newell's shearwater. They're listed as threatened on the IUCN Red List that came up as priorities in the data science projects. These 2 birds, their populations are tanking dramatically. We think there might be some populations in Oahu, but they're really hard to find. In Kauai, that's where their stronghold is, and they are in these really small populations on the high elevation peaks in Hawaii, like the last resort place that they can go to away from people and most invasive species. But cats still make it there, rats still make it there, and they're doing really poorly. So that's why we've constructed this predator-proof fence, along with our partners as well, in Kauai. This is Kilauea Point National Wildlife Refuge. Constructed the fence. This is where, you can kind of see it actually, this is where all the burrows, it's touchscreen, I'm not used to that. So all the burrows are kind of down in this valley, and so we've taken out invasive species, invasive plants, and replanted native plants in that area. And this is a project that's ongoing right now. There are Hawaiian petrels being fed, every morning right now. And I was just there last month during the translocation period. So I thought I'd show you, this is what a Hawaiian petrel looks like when it's a month old. It's somewhere between a month and 2 months old. And I like the juxtaposition of it because it's so cute. But these animals are ferocious too, which is great. They don't like being around people, they're super bitey, and these birds now, just a month later, are fully feathered and practicing flapping their wings. And by December, they should all be out to sea. So they have pretty quick turnaround, and it's a really fun project to be a part of. So bringing this all back to data science, currently what I'm doing with Seabird Conservation is I'm building a seabird restoration database, a database of all these translocation activities that are happening for seabirds around the world, as well as social attraction efforts. I believe there's social attraction happening in South Bay to attract forest sisters. Yeah, so it's an activity that's being used by conservation practitioners and scientists everywhere. And we want to learn, what are people doing? How are they doing it? Is it working? Are we spending money in the right way? Those are all questions that we still have to answer because it's a relatively new tactic to move birds from one place to another, either physically or by socially attracting them into a site with those calls or those decoys. So collating global data on social attraction, translocation techniques, and their outcomes. The idea is to inform best practice and improve those outcomes to make sure we're spending money in the right places in the right ways, because we know it's really limited. We're partnering with global experts to design the database, but also to gather the information. So I was hoping to talk to you anyway about stuff going on in the South Bay. And then we're going to be communicating the results to the conservation community through, documentation, but also an online public website like that Threatened Island Biodiversity database website. So anyone can have access to the data and learn how to do this. And with that, this is my summary. So we talked about seabirds, their unique biological traits, and their importance in ecosystems and for people. And we talked about their threats, as well as ways in which we can save them. Showing how there are ways to identify conservation hotspots for seabirds, active restoration techniques for seabirds that are really working really well, that are addressing both long-term threats like invasive species and current and new and future threats from climate change. And with that, thank you for being here tonight.
What was that? What is that bird that passed the last one? What is that?
Which one?
The one in the middle, the big one.
Oh, it's a booby.
Oh, booby. Just a booby.
Actually, I think it's a blue-footed booby. Yeah. I think this is a picture of taken from the Galapagos. Yeah. So I put my email address on the bottom, and these are red-footed boobies. If you're interested in knowing other booby species, this picture was taken on Palmyra Atoll, about 100 miles south of Oahu. And I have cards back there, just like business cards, if you want my information, or you want to stay in touch, or just get the PRC website information. And yeah, we can take questions. I think I have some time.
I have a question, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
With the predator-proof fencing, has there been instances where invasive species have been able to scale it or penetrate it?
Yeah.
Like a rat or a rodent?
Yeah, not scale it.
Yes.
So it's built with these hoods that
Oh,
are
okay.
facing outwards.
Oh, I
So
see.
you actually can't get over it, which is really cool.
Right, okay.
But if, there's ways in which those fences can degrade, or
Okay.
at the
Burrow.
where it hits the land,
Okay.
depending on the soil type and the metal material and how they interact with each other. So
Okay.
yeah, like we've seen mice coming back in, or we've seen rats coming back in.
Okay.
We track them. We're always having traps out just so we
Oh,
can
I see.
see, are they invading, how badly. It's usually not so bad. We
Okay.
find any issues and we patch it up.
Oh, okay.
And what's nice in Hawaii, because it's in a place with a lot of people, there's community members that want to help, and that's a really good way for people to help, is just to walk around the fence, see if there's any holes.
Oh,
patch
okay.
them. Yeah.
Okay.
So the Northwest Hawaiian Islands, are they expected to be mostly submerged in the coming months?
Yeah, predicted, yeah. I think the highest elevation is like 10 feet. So not completely submerged everywhere, but yeah, for the most part, it's pretty good. A lot of them are gonna, for the most part, disappear. I don't know if you heard, it was about a year ago, Hurricane Maleka went through the Pacific, and it actually completely wiped an island in the Northwest Hawaiian Islands off the map. And that, it made it on BBC News because it was like, an island disappears from hurricanes, and it's also because sea levels are higher. And interestingly, that island was a huge black-footed albatross colony, and that breeding season, because they had no place to go, we started seeing them in the main Hawaiian Islands, coming in and listening to our social attraction systems. And so if it wasn't for the hurricane, we probably wouldn't have had them in the main Hawaiian Islands on their own. They had never been seen there before that. So they're kind of looking for new places to breed, and so it makes it even more important that we're creating habitat for them now.
What was the name of that island?
I think it was Eastern Island. There's a lot of East and Eastern Islands, but it's in the French frigate shoals. Yeah, and it actually, with sand and the way that sand accumulates, it's actually reaccumulating, but then it's just insecure, so it comes and goes now. It's more like a sandy barrier island facing the East Coast. Yeah.
Are you still maintaining that database in the
Yeah.
active part of it?
Yeah, it's still active. It's not updated. It is updated for seabirds, but not for all the other threatened species on it. So it was last updated in 2014 for them, but for seabirds it's up to date to 2018. Yeah, and it's still online. Yeah.
How does information like on eBird, I just learned about it recently, how does that sort of data collected globally from sort of people, how does that inform your priorities? Or does it have a role?
In this case, it doesn't. eBird's been around for a while, and it's awesome. And a lot of people are using it to try and make predictions about where to go for conservation.
Yeah,
In this case, islands are not well documented
that's what I was thinking.
at a global scale, in any global database. And so that's why we had to start from scratch and create our own standards
Okay.
for how to do it, because there were so many data gaps. It was hard to
I'm
have all the
sure
different
they
data
actually
sources
do
talk, and then it just, yeah, it didn't really work. So we didn't use eBird at all. But I do contemplate it, and I look at it every once in a while.
I enjoy
I could use this data, and maybe one day we can integrate it.
Yeah, like maybe they saw a bird somewhere else towards the island and they're
Totally.
like, yeah,
Like
they're on
harnessing that
3-year
power.
vacation before they were
Did everyone?
Yeah, actually, and when I wasn't sure about something, like if there was unknown data, maybe literature isn't published very easily. So it could be like 10 years in between something's been published. So I would go then onto websites, to tourism websites, and see how they are broadcasting their hotels. Oh, we have these animals or those animals, and eBird to see if anyone has seen it, and that would help inform it. So yeah, like actually in a way,
just like as a check,
Totally.
a nominal check, yeah.
yeah.
How long would it take for you to form the entire database? You said you had to start from scratch because there was so big.
Yeah. I think the initial run was 2 years to completion with the website. The database was probably done in about 1.5 years, I would say, from like conception, build, data, and then online within 2 years. Yeah, I think it was first published in 2012. Yeah, and we've done a couple of updates since
Are
then.
there any like big changes that you had to account for from the time you started in this statement and at the end of the 2 years?
The change that happened was last year when Atlantic puffin and Leach's storm petrel became threatened. So when species come onto the IUCN Red List because they're not doing well, and they're wide-ranging species that occur on thousands of islands, that throws a wrench in the system because most of these birds breed on one island, or there's a tern that's threatened in Australia that breeds on like maybe 100 islands, and now it's really difficult to capture. So Atlantic puffin is a bird that's widely distributed across the Arctic, in small colonies, and all those colonies are decreasing, and so that's why it's listed as threatened. And so in that case, when we were doing that update, we had to kind of change the way we were doing things to account for birds that are now being listed as threatened that used to be very common. Yeah, I think that's the biggest, like, newest hurdle is how to deal with that kind of data.
Okay.
Yeah.
You deal with the, so the habitat, but the birds need food. Isn't there a decrease in supply of food as well?
You mean for seabirds in general? Yeah, so they compete with fisheries, and overfishing is definitely one of the threats to seabirds.
So even if you create barriers, and they have a place to nest where they don't have to eat.
Yeah, and so, I mean, yes, exactly, and that's definitely a piece of that puzzle that we're trying to solve. With climate change, fish and food are gonna move as well with different changing sea levels and sea temperatures. So we're aware of that, and there is a global database of seabird, I think, tracking data at sea. And so people working in the marine realm are using that to see where seabirds are overlapping with fisheries interactions and just to understand where they've been foraging. And we've been toying around with the idea of using that and looking at predicted sea surface temperatures to see where seabirds might have to go in the future to get their food. Yeah, but still, despite that, it is a threat, but it's not the primary threat. It's still happening on land. So we're kind of putting out the fires first. Yeah. That's my question.
Do you have a question?
I was gonna ask if you put any tags on the birds, in Oahu.
The translocated ones?
Yeah.
We don't, and it's because they're very coveted individuals. We really want them to survive, and we don't want to impact them. So it's hard though because we want to know where they're going, and we want to know if they're going to return to their source colony where we got them from, or if they're going to come to the refuge. And so if they don't come to the refuge, did they die, or did they go back somewhere else? And we'd really like to know that. All the birds are banded, and we have people monitoring those original sites. So if they might see them there, that's like the only way we would know. But if it gets lost at sea, it's the first thing I go. I'm trying to push them to get transmitters on some birds eventually, because I think that'd be important to know.
Like maybe some lighter ones that are less intensive.
Yeah.
Lighter.
I think part of the problem is they spend 3 to 4 years at sea, and so it's highly unlikely to last that long. Yeah, so,
That's late enough.
yeah, yeah.
I have another question about the fencing. So we've been thinking about fencing, but we have issues with avian predators, using those perches. And then we also, we have an influx of California gulls in the Bay Area that have been incubating on chicks. So I don't know if you have that similar issue. Are there like birds that are attracted because these are populated islands now that are increasing and doing really well that are eating these chicks? Or are there any avian predators that you're worried about using the fencing?
Yes, it's not as bad as here. And I know the environment here pretty well, and it's hard because you have a lot of predators, both native and non-native, and you maybe want to be helping, but you don't want them in your colonies. In Hawaii, the issue is mostly with owls, mostly non-native owls. There is a native owl that's there. We're not super worried about that one because it's got its own niche. But the introduced one is, I'm blanking on which owl is here. We see that at our site. We're super worried that it's going to come and learn that there's colonies of birds here, but we've hired, I don't know what you call them, hunters, I guess, to come and deal with that problem before it is a problem. So that's one way, is deterrence, basically, and just dealing with it before it gets out of hand.
No, like, issues with landfills, having tons of gulls, things like that.
No, exactly. I know the California gold problem here is hard. But yeah, deterrence methods. And there is actually a lot of data on deterrence for seabirds. I'll send you a paper that I read recently about that too. Yeah. Great, well, thanks for coming. I'll be around for another